Senior night, tomorrow night, inside Tiger Stadium, LSU in Western Kentucky. I went through this whole song and dance yesterday, and this is a similar beginning to that, but it'll go a little bit further into one aspect of this game. I'm not prepared to tell you that the next two games are going to have a significant impact on LSU's football team next year. I'm not 100% sure Michael Van Buren's going to be the quarterback next year. I'm not 100% sure Harlem Berry is going to be running the ball for LSU. Not 100% sure Caden Durham's going to be running the ball for LSU. I'm not 100% sure any of those young offensive linemen up front will be back with a different coaching staff. I'm not here to tell you that DJ Pickett and PJ Woodland are definitely going to be the corners for next year. I'm not here to tell you that I know that Don McKinley and Ahmad Bro are dudes that are going to be more moving forward with LSU. Could be. They could. They'll certainly have that option. I don't know. This is the time of year where we would usually do that. We don't anymore because of the transfer portal. So my inclination is to kind of look at the game at hand with an understanding that the future is uncertain. Tomorrow, in this game, LSU and Western Kentucky, I'm looking at one aspect of it just for, call it personal satisfaction. Call it fandom. Call it too little, too late. Certainly would be. But I want LSU to bully somebody. Bully somebody. And this Western Kentucky team is prime for being bullied on the ground. Statistically, you look at Western Kentucky, and they rank 11th of 12 teams in Conference USA against the run. Now, there are times in September where maybe if you're a group of 5, group of 6 team, and you've played 2 Power 5 teams, you played Ohio State and you played USC, you played Ohio State and you played Florida, like you're cashing a big check in September and you get crushed and one of those teams runs for 365 on you and like your stats are way out of whack. That can happen early in the season. Smaller sample size, one huge outlier. But we're now towards the end of the season, and Western Kentucky hasn't played a single Power 4 team. They have not played a Power 4 team. This is their only Power 4 game of the year. And they're 11th of 12 Conference USA teams against the run. Look at these statistics. Toledo, the Rockets, ran for 307 on Western Kentucky. Nevada, the Wolfpack, ran for 207 against this Western Kentucky front. Missouri State, I think they're the Bears. Bringing back from my baseball memory, I'm not sure. Missouri State, whatever they are, they ran for 214. In Florida International, the Panthers ran for 249 yards on Western Kentucky. These Hilltoppers have been gashed on the ground. How about running the ball, LSU? I'll tell you what. I go in the press box tomorrow night, and I see Michael Van Buren handing off to Harlem Berry and him ripping off huge runs. I know that's not inching LSU any closer to an SEC championship or a college football playoff berth, but I'd like to see it. I'd like to see the young buck get free, get out in the open, show the speed, bust a 65-yarder, make a safety miss. Just, as I said right there at the open, like for personal satisfaction. We've been following Harlem Berry's recruitment for a long time. There's a reasonable chance he is the face of LSU's running game next year. How about it starts tomorrow night with a really nice go? I thought he looked great in the first half against Texas A&M. I thought he was grounded in the game at Alabama against the substandard SEC rushing defense. Well, you were okay running the ball last week against Arkansas. You were okay. Weren't bad. Weren't great. You were good enough. Busted some big ones. This Western Kentucky defensive front stinks. So your LSU offensive line needs to get to the line of scrimmage and knock these guys out of the way. I look at LSU's stat sheet, and you look at the rushing, and it's just disappointing. Florida, 25 carries for 96 yards, less than 4 yards a carry. Against Southeastern, you run for 135. You got to be better than that against an FCS team. You went to Ole Miss, 22 carries for 57 yards. Terrible. Against Vanderbilt, you ran for 100, which is not going to get you there. Against A&M, 60 yards on the ground. Against Alabama, 59 yards on the ground. If nothing else, take out some frustration on these guys. Get behind your pads, run the football. We heard Frank Wilson say when he took the job, we're going to run the football. We heard LSU's offensive linemen come to player interviews like, we're going to run the football. Well, give it to Harlem Berry. Give it to Caden Durham. Show some creativity in the run game. Like they've done some different things. And just knock Western Kentucky out of the way and run the football. It's just like a stress relief to get that done. That's what I want to see in this game first and foremost. I mentioned that Michael Van Buren is going to be under center. We learned yesterday from Frank Wilson that Garrett Nussmeier is not going to play in this game. Like, yeah, I'd like to see Michael Van Buren throw the ball a little bit, but I'd also like to see him in the read option game, and I'd like to see LSU run the ball. I'd like to write a column after the game about the career-high rushing total for Harlem Berry and the great talent he displayed and how that stacks up with some freshman backs of yesteryear. There's nothing else to gain from this. You're playing for pride. You're playing for your seniors. You're trying to conjure up any sort of emotional edge you can get. I understand you can go to Tuscaloosa and play hard and play tough after a bye week with a new coach. I understand you can go out there in front of your home crowd against Arkansas and get that win for Frank Wilson. There's very little outside of senior night to get these guys going against Western Kentucky in a half-empty stadium tomorrow night. So for me, I'm pulling these run numbers up for LSU's offensive line and going, y'all ran for 59 in Tuscaloosa. You ran for 60 against A&M. You ran for 57 against Ole Miss. You played as FCS team Southeastern. You were only able to run for $135. You want to prove something? You want to take out some frustration? Knock Western Kentucky out of the way like Toledo did, like Florida International and Missouri State did. I understand if you're an LSU fan, you're like, oh, I'd really like to see Van Buren. I think that's the quarterback of the future. And I'm not dismissing that completely, and he'll get his opportunities. I want Berry. I want Durham. I want that offensive line to move forward, push some guys out of the way. That's what I'm looking for on Saturday night in Death Valley. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.